All right, thank you everybody for joining us at the Old Colony Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Just a little housekeeping thing. If you could put in your name, your affiliation next to it, that would be great. So here on the screen, we have the agenda for today. First up is going to be Rachel Calderera Bruce from the Wildlands Trust, and then we'll be talking about some bike ped projects in the Old Colony region. I'll give a little rail trail highlight on the Hanover project. And then Chike from Brockton, at the last couple meetings, he brought up regarding bicycle seats. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll open it up for discussion on bicycle and pedestrian issues. So I'll hand this over to Rachel. I'll stop sharing my screen and you can share yours.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Rachel Calderara Bruce. I am the Director of Special Projects at Wildlands Trust. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I want to tell everybody about the DW Field Park initiative that Wildlands Trust is leading in partnership with the City of Brockton. So I'm basically just going to give a brief overview and talk a little bit specifically about the bicycle and pedestrian angle of this initiative, and then I'll open it up for questions if there are any. In case you haven't been to DW Field Park, it's a 700-acre park located in Brockton and Avon. It's held in protection by the City of Brockton. It's about 100 years old, so the park was built between 1925 and 1934 under the supervision of the then owner, Daniel Waldo Field, and then he donated the park and the adjoining golf course to next door to the City of Brockton, and that was before the town of Avon existed. So now half the park is in the town of Avon as well, but the park itself is still protected by the City of Brockton. So the trails and the roadways through the park circumvent 6, formerly 7 man-made water bodies, all made through damming. And the roads are open to vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrian traffic. So it is a kind of unique and interesting park for the area. The vehicles are limited by gate control, so they're not allowed in at certain times in the mornings and on certain days of the weekends. So sometimes the park is just open for bicycles and pedestrians. The main parking lot, and I am going to show you some maps if you haven't seen this, so it'll all kind of make sense, but the main parking lot is located on Oak Street in Brockton. So that makes this kind of Oak Street to South Street area that we're going to talk about the most popular loop for recreation in the park. And then also the park was added to the National Registry of Historic Places in the year 2000 by the then newly formed DW Field Park Association. And that association now acts, they are a nonprofit and they act as a friend group to the park. So we're working closely with them on this initiative as well. So here you can see the zoomed out kind of where the park is within the City of Brockton, and it is green on Google Maps. And then as soon as we get into Avon, the whole area is green, but those water bodies following that kind of north to south stretch are the entire park there. And here it is on the right with a couple of local kind of points of interest that help people navigate. And I think the next slide, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. This is the Oak Street to South Street area that I talked about. This is another map, a little bit of a different orientation here. So this is the map that is in the kiosks at the park that the City of Brockton Parks and Recreation Department has developed. It is a different orientation, kind of to make it landscape to encompass the length of the park. North is to the left on this map, so it's a little confusing, but this is our study area, the most popular recreation loop from Oak Street here to South Street, which is actually in the town of Avon. That the town line is about right here, if you can see my mouse. Here. So just the reason Wildlands Trust is involved with the park, this is not an acquisition project. We're not looking to take the park into Wildlands Trust portfolio. We're just partnering with the city on this project as a conservation partner. And we've been acting as a partner with the city of Brockton since 2012 on a variety of projects, which include the acquisition and restoration of the Brockton Audubon Preserve on the west side of the city, as well as the restoration of the city's Stone Farm Conservation Area. We also do educational environmental programming with the Brockton schools, and a variety of other projects that we worked on over the past decade. So this year in March, we received funding from an anonymous private donor foundation. They wish to remain anonymous, and that was in the amount of $305,000 to jumpstart this initiative and to start with the planning process. And this winter, we actually will be also receiving an additional $75,000 from the state's economic development bill, thanks to Senator Brady's office and OCPC. Thank you very much. So that combined money is really just for this initial planning phase. It's a 2-year planning phase, again, led by Wildlands Trust in partnership with the city. Environmental Partners is our engineering firm that we're working very closely with. And there's many other local organizations in and around Brockton that I have on another slide to show you that are working with Wildlands Trust on this initiative. And at the end, we'll have a master plan for that area, Oak Street to South Street, completed by the end of next year. So the master plan will be outlined more or less like this. The green infrastructure and stormwater management section is being led by Environmental Partners, and the Conway School, which is a landscape design school in Western Mass, and they'll be down in the spring of 2023, working closely with Environmental Partners and doing some of the landscape design components of that. We're also going to be looking, of course, at recreation, which will include a focus on accessibility and safety. We're working with Old Colony Planning Council, DW Field Park Association, and then I should mention the city of Brockton Parks and Recreation Department would be a primary partner for everything that we're doing. We're working closely with an organization called Manomet that is headquartered here in Plymouth, but they are a global organization that focuses on environmental education, climate change, and birding research. So they are our education partner, as well as the DW Field Park Association, which I mentioned earlier is the nonprofit friends group for the park, and they do a lot of events and outreach. And then finally, we'll be looking at improving waste management and working closely with the city of Brockton and the DW Field Park Association. So that's kind of the outline of the master plan. And then some other things that are kind of happening that will fit in with that are our partners in the town of Avon. They're going to be helping with grants, permitting, and support. Old Colony Planning Council, in addition to recreation planning assistance, has also been our partner for our community survey development, which I'll tell you about in a minute, as well as collecting some traffic data and doing outreach. The Massasoit Community College is right now conducting a water health study at the water bodies within the park with their students in the ecology course. So that will be a baseline kind of pilot year for that. And we're looking at growing that study in the future years with Massasoit and possibly other schools. Brockton Area Transit has been very supportive. They've already added a bus stop at the park entrance on Oak Street, wasn't previously there. And they are looking at adding a shelter at that bus stop as well. Brockton High School, we have a good relationship with, and we're looking at expanding that to the rest of the public school system to expand youth environmental programming, both at the park and throughout the city. And we've also met with the Brockton Police and Fire Departments about safety, and they have agreed to work with us on assessing and helping to incorporate safety into the master plan. So the community survey that I mentioned right now is out. It was released in October, and it will be open through February. Our partners at OCPC helped us develop and distribute this, and we hope you all take the survey. And if you want to distribute it in your towns, if you think it's applicable, I'd be happy to send you information. We want to get as many responses as possible. Right now, we're at almost 300, which is really good. Or we're hoping to get, many, many more. The city of Brockton is about 100,000 people. So the more input we have from the community, the better we can create a master plan that truly reflects the wants and needs of the people who use the park. This survey is available in English, Cape Verdean, Creole, Haitian Creole, Spanish, and Portuguese. And basically, we're using the survey to assess how the park is used recreationally. If the park isn't used, so one of the first questions is, do you visit the park? And if people answer no, we want to know why. Is it an access issue? Is it a safety concern, a knowledge issue, or something else? How people access the park by car, by bike, by bus, etc. And people's views and opinions about the safety and upkeep and accessibility of the park. And then we have a list of potential improvement projects that we've identified, and we ask the community survey members to kind of rank those so we know what kinds of projects would be most important to the community. And that's our little flyer. We have that up at the park right now, and we did some outreach at the Tower Fest in October at the park, as well as at the Downtown Brockton Parade. We handed out 300 postcards for the survey and drove the Wildlands truck in the parade. And we had a lot of responses after that, so it seems to be successful. As I mentioned earlier, Old Colony Planning Council also did some transportation data collection for us. So in August, and please feel free to correct me if I'm saying anything wrong about this, because we have the transportation guys on who actually did this. From the raw data, what I was able to gather was that a total of 940 bikes were logged in that 2-week study from August 12th to August 31st. And there were different areas, as you can see, the north of Oak Street, the Tower Hill, and the south of South Street, that they logged the bikes at different times. So that accounts for an average of 4.9% of the traffic in the study area. So it is mostly being used by vehicles. We don't have a count on pedestrians right now, but this is just some kind of initial data for us to include in the master planning. And I thought it was pretty significant that around 5% of the traffic was bicycles. So some really obvious areas for improvement. And again, we do want to base our recommendations in the master plan off that feedback from the community. But some things that we've already been able to just kind of identify as obvious areas to look at would be better shared roadways for the cars, bikes, and pedestrians that are using the roadways. There is definitely an issue with speeding for vehicles throughout the park, and the divide of the road between the area that cars are supposed to use and the area that pedestrians, bikes are supposed to use isn't always completely clear. So there is a lot of ways to look at improvements for that. There can be improvements for the pedestrian only trails, which are both paved and natural areas throughout the park. There's definitely areas for improvement at the crossings of the streets that cut through the park, such as Oak Street and South Street. As far as, pedestrian controls, lights at crosswalks, and other opportunities to make those crossings safer for bikes and pedestrians. And then improved roadways around the park that are outside of the park that would help with bike and pedestrian access to get to the park. So Avon has done this with their shared streets around Avon after they identified that I think around 95% of their survey respondents were using the park. So they wanted to make it more accessible. So they created a plan to improve streets around the park so people can get into it without having to use a car. And so I thought that was really cool and something that we could expand upon and dropped in as well. General next steps for our pretty much next year are continuing this community survey. Again, it will close in February, and then we'll have the results for March. Our partners are going to begin working on the different sections of the master plan and getting together, using the community input as a guide. Environmental Partners is not only leading the green infrastructure and stormwater management section of the master plan, but they're also going to take all the master plan that is being composed by our other partners and make it into one finalized document. So that will be completed at the end of next year. And then from there, we'll be looking at grants to fund the implementation of these projects over the next 10 or more years. So some of the identified opportunities would be the park grant through the state, which you can get, I think, up to 3 years in a row, maybe 4. So we could do $400,000 at a time, focusing on different projects. That's a 50 to 70% reimbursement grant. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, also through the state, you can get up to $1 million at a time with a 50% reimbursement. And then an even higher level at the federal, you can get up to $5 million through the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Grant, which is a one-to-one matching fund. All of those would have to go through the city of Brockton, and Wildlands Trust would be a partner in helping to develop or identify the grants that we would want to pursue, and then helping the city to write those as well. And then implementation would begin as soon as 2024, depending on grant funding. So first step is just getting that master plan complete so we can go after these different sources of funding. And that is the overview. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to chat.
Thank you very much,
Go ahead,
Rachel.
Ray.
That was a great overview of the project and the presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Does anybody have any questions for Rachel?
Ray has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that this is a really great project. Thank you for this presentation. And I just wanted to make the connection between this park and the city of Brockton. It's well within walking distance of a lot of neighborhoods in Brockton. So, I mean, that is a great advantage, at least the lower part of this park. Up into Avon, you kind of need more of a car to get to it, or a bicycle. But in the lower part, people can actually walk to it. I mean, people walk to the mall, and the mall's right next to it. So it goes right up. You can go right up Pleasant Street. You can go up a lot of the streets. Local streets lead up to Pleasant Street, and you can go right up the end of Pleasant Street, and it's right there. So I think that's very important, and I hope the people in Brockton get the realize that they have a nice park there. It's kind of tucked away, behind the business, behind the corridor. But it's I think this is a great project and a master plan. It would be great to see the park fixed up for the neighborhoods. And I just wanted to make that comment. I didn't really have a question, but thank you for that. I'm thinking as a transportation planner, how do people get to it? And to have an extra mode like walking distance, I mean, that's a great advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And that just reminded me too, that also future phases of this project would include expanding that master plan into the northern and southern sections. I forgot to include that in the slides, but again, we're focusing on the Oak Street to South Street right now. But as we'll begin implementation in that area, we'll also begin planning for the northern section up here around the Brockton Reservoir, and the section south of Oak Street, which is behind the Listed Pond.
Bill Fitzgerald from Avon has his hand raised.
Hey,
Hey, Bill.
Ray, one thing to note as far as walking, if you look on the west side of 24, we in Brockton have done a lot of work on Reservoir and Central, and there's sidewalks on South Street. So part of that was intended to be a way for a lot of folks in the, say, Pine Grove area and Good Sam, whatever, to be able to have a safe way to get to the park, like going up Reservoir and Central to South. So
And I know a lot of people bicycle up that way too, I think, besides.
yeah, I'm amazed that since we put that in, how many, part of it shared use paths, part of it, could only fit sidewalks, but there's even South Street and Stoughton uses that a lot. So you guys helped us a lot, get those, there were 3 different grants involved, and developer did Reservoir Street to get to a project in Avon. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. Just, that was the whole idea, is for people in that really dense area to be able to walk. We need to do something on signage, wayfinding and all that. The second thing, just started whatever, but just 3 things. The second thing, so Rachel, okay, I get it. The master plan's focus, which is good. You saw kind of the magic marker thing I did. We were looking at a couple of projects on South Street, and particularly on Old Pond, which actually at the north end, which actually I understand is Avon Street. And I've talked to Brockton a little bit about that. With the Harrison Boulevard intersection project, we've got some bike access, and pedestrian access, and a number of you have been out there and know that's horrible on Pond Street to get to the park. We did look at a complete streets project. The problem is the developer who owns the land to the north may do something with it. You know, it's been on the market for a long time, so should we do the road or not? So we almost went for that grant last time, and we keep going back and forth, so hopefully sometime. I'm a miss whether I should just do it, and because you can get some parking along the street also, at least, if not some in parking. A lot of people park outside the gate in the morning there, and it's I think a great access point for the park. The same thing on South Street. I think that you could do a couple of entrances and maybe some parking that allows people in the morning to get there. This is all contingent, obviously, in Brockton. The crossings are tough there, you know, to straighten out. I don't know if you folks can look at and have any ideas, but again, we were looking at a couple of projects there that, again, both going north and south, a lot of people use that in the morning to walk, bike. So you had said you're going to kind of finish the plan and do some grants, but I just wanted to make sure if Avon does pursue some, obviously you'd be working with you folks and working with Brockton, but is that okay, or should we wait for a plan?
I think it depends. I think there's some things that can get done that don't need to wait. I think like if you wanted to do complete streets up here on Pond Street, I think we should have a conversation about that, and we have already. But if you wanted to pursue that before, you know, we won't get into master planning for that area until 2024. But if there's already some kind of obvious areas to make improvements, then that's potentially something we could do. And then we would just incorporate, we're doing that into the master plan. It doesn't always have to be completely linear.
Great.
And I think you had some great ideas about, you know, ways to add parking and improve that area. And as far as we know, that parcel that's up for sale, or the two parcels by the same landowner, is, you know, they're looking to sell commercially, and they're not looking to protect at this time.
Yeah.
You never know.
I mean, they've been trying for a long time, and
Yeah.
the legend and stuff makes it difficult, but you know, it's their land. That's great. It'd be great to work with them on something if they did go ahead.
Mhm.
I mean, the third thing I wanted to talk about, tying this into kind of a regional bike plan. I can wait till later. I talked about it at the last meeting. I talked with Amanda Lewis the other day about some type of tying into the more extended state trails and potential a grant before February 1st for that. So I can talk about that later if folks are interested.
Is that the DCR?
Yep.
Okay, the mass trails. Oh yeah, definitely, let's chat. That is another, you know, potential source of funding, mass trails. That would be specifically for smaller projects within park and making connections on a larger regional, like making
what they are-
connections to other areas is what they're looking for, but definitely stability for funding.
What I might as well just do it now if that's okay with folks. I'd sent this last time. If you look at a regional structure, the last time they did mass trails, they said they were looking for things that extended the lake, say the Bay Circuit Path, the big stuff. And if you look at a regional map and you overlay environmental justice, urban areas, heat islands, all that stuff, there's a big hole in the state kind of network of paths, and that's Brockton, Avon, Stoughton, all that. And she recognizes that, and I mentioned this last time. She'd love to see an RPA make a pilot, and again, you may be working on this for all I know, to tie in kind of areas of need that don't have that connection. And I can see DW Field being part of that solution. You know, we're talking about something that's really regional. But she was talking, you know, an RPA being a pilot on looking at that. I think they were talking 100, 150 in planning money. We're talking planning money, not implementation money. So I don't know if OCPC and you folks or whoever are interested in pursuing it. I've done kind of info dump in the past, but it's an incredibly fundable project and incredibly good for the mission I think we all want to see. Then I'll shut up.
No,
Yeah, I think-
thank you, Bill. I think it would be great to include Brockton and the surrounding area in some bigger regional plans. I think that would be like super important for, you know, the bigger picture of conservation and even wildlife corridors. But it also for recreation. So thank you for bringing that up. We should definitely take a look at that.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any other comments, questions? One other thing I was going to bring up, Rachel, I don't know if you noticed while looking at the data on the DW Field Parkway West, just south of South Street, I noticed there's a lot of vehicles going from that. They must be going from the parking lot and they're going north. Because I know that's a one-way going south.
Yeah,
So I think there was like between 10 or 15 vehicles that were going north to exit South Street.
oh,
So that's definitely a
yeah.
safety issue to think about. I don't know if there's any way of like putting up more do not enter signs like at the parking lot or something like that.
Yeah, so they're probably parking at the I call it the asphalt beach. It's
Yeah.
the shoreline right here, the duck feeding area, right over
Yeah.
there right over the A1 line. Yeah, so they're kind of coming in, parking and going out. The
Yeah.
whole road, for those who haven't been, is a one-way loop, so that makes it so that there's only cars on one side of the road and the other half is open for pedestrians. So yeah, driving in the opposite direction could definitely cause some issues, and the road is even narrower on the western side than it is on the
Yeah.
eastern side. So I didn't notice that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. All right, I think we can move on to the next agenda item. Let me share my screen again. All right, so now we're going to move on to projects in the OCPC region. Sean's going to be talking about this a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Kyle. The first project is in the town of Avon. It is MassDOT. It is MassDOT project number 608086, the intersection improvements at Harrison Boulevard and Pond Street. Work on this project is consisting of installing new traffic signal equipment, minor geometric improvements, as well as upgrading bicycle and pedestrian accommodations at the intersection. The construction began last year. The construction bid was just under $4 million, and the project is still ongoing. The other project is MassDOT project number 600380 in Pembroke, Route 36, between Route 27 and Route 14. This project consists of resurfacing and rehabilitation and full depth reconstruction of certain areas of Route 36 between the intersections with Route 27 in the south and Route 14 in the north. Sidewalks will be constructed as well as reconstructed. Drainage will be upgraded, and it also includes sign and pavement markings. The construction bid price for this was a little over $8.8 million, and the construction began last winter as well. And I know we have Barbara LaChance on this meeting as well. Barbara, do you have any updates as to where either of these projects are at?
Hi, everybody. Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, the Avon project is still under construction, as Sean said. They're continuing with the full depth excavation, the widening, the installation of the concrete barrier and the binder paving. They're also planning on painting the temporary striping on Harrison Boulevard and Pond Street. They have been working, doing biweekly meetings, and they held one, I believe, on the 14th of this month. So the next one will be planned for January for that project. As for the Pembroke project, they began with the drainage installation, which is ongoing. Also, Grid has begun work on the overhead lines. They started that at the end of October, which is also ongoing. And Daigle Electric is to begin the installation of the secondary risers on the new utility poles. I believe sometime this month they should be starting that. And this, they are also doing biweekly meetings for this project, and they held one in December already. So the next one is scheduled for January. And that's the latest construction updates I have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Barbara. Does anybody have any questions on either of these projects?
Yeah, Pete Sutton here. What are the bike treatments again? Just some bike lanes on the Avon project right in the immediate area?
Barbara, can you answer that?
I'd have to pull up the plans, Pete. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
A while since I looked at it. I just basically looked up construction updates. I can let me see what I can find out for you.
I thought it was just mentioned in the description.
Yeah, the description on the MassDOT website just says upgrading bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure at the intersection. It doesn't give specifics on whether it's bike lanes or if it's sharrows.
Yeah.
You know, that specific information is not on this website.
As we move forward with these, we can get a little bit better organized as to what everybody actually wants to see. Like, I don't know if maybe you wanted to have like a plan sheet just to show, or, you know, whatever you guys feel is helpful. We want to make sure we have information for everybody. You know, maybe we can present like a plan sheet, and then I can give construction updates or whatever our latest updates are if it's not under construction already.
Yeah, Barbara, I like the idea of the plan sheet. I think that'd be really
Okay.
a nice way to present the improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just to show like a sketch or something of what's planned, or, you know, what's possibly underway, especially on projects that are already under construction. We can provide it for that. So apologize for my voice. I'm recovering, being sick. I sound like a little weak here.
Mhm.
So yeah, we can come up with something as to how we want to like give the update, Sean and Charlie, if you don't mind. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll work offline and come up with something.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, sounds good. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the Hanover Branch Rail Trail extension. So this was, Hanover got funding through the Mass Trails grant. It's going to be a shared use pathway that extends the Hanover Branch Rail Trail across West Hanover. It's connecting Hanover with the already shared use pathway that travels through Abington and Rockland. And these are just a couple pictures of the existing rail trail right now. I pulled these off the Hanover website. So the trail will also be providing handicap access. It's going to be a 10-foot wide paved pathway, about 0.81 miles. And there will also be a parking area that's going to be located in West Hanover Square for visitors to access the rail trail. That's basically all I had for that. I just wanted to highlight this project. I'm not sure when the construction is starting. I'll have to look into that, but this is just one of the towns in our region that got Mass Trails money. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Yeah, Kyle, do you know if it's the town's intent to eventually develop the whole corridor? Because it goes all the way into Hanover Center, which is a good couple miles.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know, yeah, just in this one, it says the 0.81 miles, but I'll have to reach out to the town and see what their intentions are, if they would complete it. like
Yeah, I
across
mean,
the town.
hopefully they could, if it's intact. I'm not really familiar with that area down there. I have ridden that trail once or twice, but I do know that it does extend all the way into the center of town.
Yeah,
But it's good. It's a nice start that they're starting to move eastward.
yeah, definitely. So at the last couple meetings, Chike Adonakwe from a planner in Brockton, he brought up the issue of prostate issues with men. I know this is a different issue. We haven't really talked about at these meetings, but I figured I'd put a couple slides on bicycle seats. And these are just like a few options, different price brackets. $25 one. It's based. I feel like most bicycle seats have these openings in the middle to prevent issues. But the $235 one, that's definitely one I've never seen before. And it looks like it would definitely be comfortable, I would think. And same as the $90 one, that's definitely a different design. But there's definitely options out there. And I think there is a misconception about bike riding and prostate issues in men. What I did some research, and the health benefits definitely outweigh the risks. You're definitely not going to get prostate cancer or anything like that riding a bike. So that's all I have on that. Just some facts here, like a study in 2018. 25 minutes of high intensity cycling a day. We're 30% less likely to develop advanced prostate cancer. So yeah, I don't think there's really anything to worry about unless you're on a bike 24 hours a day, which nobody is. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else had any questions on that. I know I saw Chike's not actually on the meeting today, but I'll reach out to him with this information. All right, so if anybody has any other bike and pet issues in the region they want to bring up, or any discussions we can have, yeah, we'll work with Barbara getting together a sheet that has all the info on updates on projects in the region. We'll get that going for next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hey, Kyle,
Yeah,
I just dropped a link in the chat to the Mass Trails Bike Wayfinding Design Guide. It is finally out, and if you'd like, I can give a quick overview of it.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, hold on a sec. Can you make me a
Yeah.
co-host?
Yep.
All right. Can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Does it say the Mass Trails Bike Wayfinding Design Guide?
It's on a project info.
Okay.
It looks like the internal project info.
Okay. All right.
It does exist. It's a unicorn.
Right now, I have, I got two screens up, so hold on a second. Let me move this one over. Close this one out. How's that?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is, for those of you unfamiliar, this is the Mass Trails homepage. A lot of great resources on here. And for those of you that have been following, the Trails team over the past couple of years had developed a bike wayfinding design guide internally for state agencies and municipalities to use. I'm happy to report that we finally made it official, and it's located on this website. This is a hopefully will be a great resource for people who are interested in wayfinding. As you can see by the release date, we work with Tool Design on this. Very great design company. Table of contents has the purpose and overview, the existing guidance, wayfinding for high comfort routes. This is a great guide, not only for trails, but for local streets getting to trails and parks and destinations. Again, it gives the overview. Lots of really good examples. It basically follows the manual on uniform traffic control devices that we're all familiar with. But the good thing about this wayfinding design guide is that there is a lot of leeway in what kind of info you can put on these MUTCD approved signs. Gives a little background on where they would be most appropriate. Destination selections. This was really eye-opening for me. I didn't really know that there are different levels that you should follow. The further you are away, obviously, cities and towns and significant destinations, whereas where you get closer for a couple of miles in, that's when you break it down to the districts and neighborhoods and downtown areas. And then right when you're within a mile of certain areas, local landmarks and cultural attractions, restaurants, service areas, that kind of thing. So there's definitely a sign hierarchy to all this. Also different kinds of colors. Here's the standard sign family that is outlined pretty well. The confirmation, decisions with arrows, turning, street names as well. You can get as simple or as complex as you want as far as your routing goes. Again, lots of great examples, most of them in state through other projects that Tool Design Group has worked on. And again, going through the turning signs. These are the blades that DCR uses on a lot of their paths and in their parks. They seem to have had a lot of success with that. And we also thought it was important to feature them in here. Also worked with the East Coast Greenway with their wayfinding signage. As people know, they do go through Massachusetts with two routes, one inland and one via Cape Cod. Again, lots of other different kinds of signage examples that are also acceptable to add as supplements on, such as granite mile markers and kiosks. What kind of treatments work best? Even sharrows, you know, they do serve their purpose. They don't keep you safe, but they are good for very basic wayfinding, and that's also addressed here. Not a hugely long document either. A really, really deep dive. Shouldn't take most people more than like 90 minutes. Again, lots of really great examples and you know, measurements, just basically abbreviations of language, pretty much all encompassing for anyone that's interested in implementing some kind of wayfinding signage project, big or small. Vertical and lateral clearances, a couple of good case study examples here at the end for people to follow along to. And I'm also happy to report that we are utilizing this already for a pilot project down on Cape Cod. The folks from the Cape Cod Commission reached out to us and wanted to work with us in this guide on reestablishing State Bike Route 1, which is also known as the Clare Saltonstall Bikeway. A lot of people of my age and older might be familiar with that. It was done, it was put in place over 40 years ago, and it's kind of fallen out of people don't refer to it much anymore just because it was primarily en route. But Cape Cod Commission, with all the trails that they've been establishing over the past like 20 years or so, wanted to reorient the bikeway onto most of the Cape Cod Bikeway and other trails there. So things are moving ahead with that. And I can also say that if folks are planning to apply for a Mass Trails grant this round in 23, that the wayfinding and signage is eligible for grant funding. So if you are on the fence about how to fund it, this might be a good opportunity to apply this time. Again, a really great resource. So glad that it's out. I've already gotten a ton of really good feedback from it, not only from the folks down in Cape Cod, but from people in other parts of the state that are relieved that there is some kind of wayfinder that they can point to that is within acceptable limits, and they're not working outside of the MUTCD requirements. So it'd be interested to see folks on this call if they review it and what they think of it.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for doing that overview. That definitely looks like a good resource for towns. We'll have to put that in our maybe we'll put it in the OCPC newsletter to get it out to folks in our region. I feel like that'd be a good spot for it.
Yeah, definitely. It is it's one of those things that a lot of people in the planning field, especially when you're planning infrastructure like trails and parks, it's kind of an afterthought. And I think that its time has come, and survey after survey that we've taken and we've read, people really find wayfinding very important as part of the overall experience of either riding, walking, taking in a trail, taking in a park. The experience is that much more enhanced when you know where you're going.
Yeah, definitely.
And more importantly, I'll just use this as an example. If Field Park that was presented earlier adopted some kind of wayfinding similar to this, I think that would enhance the experience, especially for someone like me who's not from the area and who's never been down there. I would definitely need wayfinding in and around Avon and Brockton in the park itself. So this is a perfect opportunity, I think.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so here's I put up all the meetings for 2023.
I think Bill had a question.
Oh. Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
Peter, that's great. I mentioned we were looking at wayfinding as part of our shared street grants. I'd love them, I could pay to put up wayfinding around in Avon, South Street, Central Street, Pond Street signs, but it'd be great to have a standard, that would be used all around. So if somebody picks one, I can get something done pretty quick.
Yeah. And Bill, I would encourage you to reapply again. I know that you applied earlier this year for the 22 round, and I have to say, as one of the Mass Trails team members and people who are on the scoring team, we just had so many applications this year that it was really, really tough picking candidates. But that being said, we awarded so many awards this year that I'm thinking that a lot of the people who got awarded grants this year won't be applying this round in 23 just because they'll be busy planning and spending their money down. So the field may open up, I'm saying, this winter for more applications.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I had a great talk with Amanda about
Yep.
Our project at DeMarco, and it's funny you talk about Bike Route 1 because that's where it goes by, and we were trying to do a kind of bypass that again would be part of a regional system, and there's less of a regional significance in terms of but she encouraged it, and again that's when we started that project, that's when we got into looking at the big regional picture and how it would link.
Mhm.
So it's a great program, and we are reapplying for DeMarco, and
Good.
we're further along. We have survey done now, wetlands, stuff like that.
Good. And also, if to encourage folks like the town of Hanover, I don't think they're on this call, even though we had an update about the Hanover Rail Trail. But if anyone from OCPC is working with the town, I would encourage them to reapply for more funds to extend the Hanover Rail Trail, where we've upped our amount to $500,000 this year for a maximum amount for trails grants. So just pretty significant that you have $500,000 that you could definitely make some inroads with that, either purchasing right away, doing 100% design, or actually going to construction.
Yeah, we'll definitely get the word out to the communities about the next round of Mass Trails grant.
Yep, deadline is February 1st, as it always is.
All right, anything else? Yeah, so as I was saying before, that I posted the next 4 meetings, all the meetings in 2023. I'll be sending out a calendar invite so it gets on everybody's radar sooner rather than later. And any meetings you've missed, we put the recordings up on YouTube so you can watch those on the OCPC channel. And if there's nothing else, I think that's about it. I won't be at the March meeting. I'll be out on leave for a little bit, but someone else from OCPC will be running the meeting. And I should be back at the June meeting. And thank you to Rachel again for her presentation. That was very informative. And we'll, she'll hopefully get some great bike and ped amenities in DW Field Park.
That would be great. Just one more thing, Kyle, from MassDOT's end. I know that earlier this year, I gave a presentation about the next generation of the bicycle and pedestrian plans implementation. I'm happy to say that we have one of our on-call consultants selected to undergo that process. So hopefully by the March meeting, I'll have an update on that. We're looking to make good on all of the performance measures that were in both bicycle and pedestrian plans. Now that we have the first run of projects out there, we actually do have something to measure. And like I said before, we're kind of looking at the drilling down to the municipal level. The original run of projects from the bike and ped plans were focused almost exclusively on roads under MassDOT jurisdiction, and we're looking to expand that into roads under local jurisdiction, especially in all of our cities that could use some better biking and walking infrastructure. So that is definitely in progress now, and hopefully we'll have some updates in March.
Okay, great. Thank you. yeah, so if nothing else, we'll see everybody at the March meeting in 2023.
Yeah.
It's in 2 weeks away.
I know. All right, thank you,
Great.
everybody.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
later.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.
Yep. Happy holidays.